Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett calls for First Lady Melania Trump to be deported from the United States. Big Pharma is freaking out after learning exactly what RFK Jr. is about to share with the public. Social Security just got unexpected and unconventional good news, and Vladimir Putin's most powerful missile, or Sheknik, was just commissioned to be mass-produced for war. Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. Let's jump right in. Dr. Scott Gottlieb, a former White House COVID doctor that then left the White House for a big salaried position with Big Pharma, is now saying that RFK Jr. is likely to put vaccine makers out of business. Listen to this.
Do you think that's what's happening here?
Look, he's been a motivated anti-vaxxer. I think he's been unabashed about this. And one of his close advisors said when he gets the keys to the kingdom, and those are the words, he's not going to back away from his positions. He's been hardened in these views. I think he's setting up a litigation enterprise. I think that's what this is about. There's two members of the AdCom who both served as expert witnesses in litigation against Merck, didn't disclose that as a potential conflict. We know the secretary had an interest in ongoing litigation, the Gardasil vaccine that he gifted to his son. So there's a very vast litigation enterprise. And if you start pulling out ingredients like thimerosal and alum, and there's sort of an official sanction given to that, I think what he's setting up is to declare in his autism report in the fall that there's a link between alum and autism. I think that's where this is heading if I was to make a prediction. If he does that, that will open the door to litigation under the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program and create a whole wave of lawsuits that I think will drive a lot of vaccine makers out of the market. You could see companies.
So he won't even stop them from doing it. He will do it through the lawsuits, and that will make the companies say, forget it.
Well, he's always seen litigation as a tool to try to achieve his objectives. You could see companies, people say, can the companies get out of the manufacturing of vaccines? They can certainly spin it out. And at a time when every other nation is trying to build up its vaccine enterprise and sees it as a national security imperative, we're dismantling ours in this country.
I think this Big Pharma doctor may have said the quiet part out loud. For 25 years since the secret Simpsonswood event where the government and Big Pharma admitted knowing that vaccines were causing sickness, chronic illness, and autism-like symptoms, they've been lying to us. And I think this guy knows RFK Jr. is about to show through the science that some of the ingredients in vaccines are making people very sick. I'll have more to report on that later. All right, now I want to talk to you about Big Balls for a second. Big Balls is the genius that Elon Musk hired to work over at Doge. Now, about a week ago, he quit Doge, and the Democrats were laughing. Oh, you guys have accomplished nothing. Well, he was actually hired as a special government employee to go in and specifically look through Social Security. He's been given one mission: expose and eliminate all the fraud from Social Security and look for ways to make the program stronger for seniors. This is huge. So once this guy gets in there, I think he is going to expose the fraud, the abuse, the number of foreign people that are in there, the people that shouldn't be there, the ones that are receiving checks after they've died. This is going to be a really great thing. So Democrats were laughing. Well, who has the last laugh now? President Trump has hired this guy to go in and make Social Security better. Really exciting. Now, President Trump's big, beautiful bill is a bold legislative push to secure America's economic future, but it's hitting roadblocks in the Senate. This comprehensive package aims to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, the biggest since Ronald Reagan, raise the debt ceiling, strengthen border security, and trim bloated programs like Medicaid and SNAP, where the fraud is rampant. Now, these measures align with core MAGA priorities: preventing crippling tax hikes, sustaining Trump's border security gains, and curbing runaway government spending. However, Senate resistance threatens progress. Moderate Republicans like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski worry about Medicaid cuts burdening states and SNAP changes hurting vulnerable communities. Meanwhile, fiscal hawks like Rand Paul and Ron Johnson argue the bill's scope risks adding $2.4 trillion to the deficit over a decade, per Congressional Budget Office numbers. Even Elon Musk, who slammed the bill as an abomination, is saying this needs to be trimmed down. Now, it is getting trimmed down by the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, but not in ways that Trump or MAGA wants. So the likelihood that this is going to pass by July 4th is slipping away. Now, the White House, backed by Council of Economic Advisor Chair Stephen Mirren, warned that stalling this bill could tip the U.S. into recession. Stephen Mirren, speaking on News Nation, emphasized the bill's tax cuts will spur growth to offset debt concerns. Some GOP senators propose a leaner version focused solely on tax extension, border funding, and targeted cuts to break the deadlock. So instead of one big, beautiful bill, it would be a much smaller bill with specifically the things that Trump and MAGA want. Now, for conservatives, this bill is a chance to lock in Trump's economic and border victories while tackling wasteful spending. Delays or diluting it risks higher taxes for almost all Americans and economic instability. I'll let you know as we get closer. Now, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, also weighed in, expressing support for the bill, saying that they need the money in order to keep the gains at the border and the fentanyl down and the human trafficking. Let's listen to what he had to say.
ICE is arresting 3 times as many criminals that the Biden administration did. We're taking public safety threats and national security threats off the street every single day. Well, we got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. This should be a no-brainer. The more resources we get, if we get this bill passed, we got more agents on the road. We buy more beds, we get more transportation flights. More agents means more bad guys arrested, taken off the streets of this country every single day. Every day we arrest a public safety threat or national security threat. This makes this country much safer. Who the hell would be against that?
Well, Tom, have you met the Democrats in Congress and some of the rhinos and minos? But he brings up a great point. They're running out of border funding money. So this needs to get passed so that they can keep people down there. As of right now, almost nobody's coming into the country. Certainly not criminals, terrorists. They've been able to cut way down on the fentanyl and the human trafficking. And as he said, they're not deporting as many as they could because they're understaffed, but they are deporting 3 times as many criminals as the Biden administration. But even with all of those gains, they're still down by 600,000 criminals that they believe are in America. 600,000 criminals walking around making our streets unsafe. So we've got to get this bill passed. And President Trump's press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, she summed up best exactly the big things that President Trump wants. So in addition to the border and saving us money, we need to modernize our air traffic control. Right now, these are decades behind other countries. We need to get the tax cuts in place for American families. He wants to increase the child tax credit. He wants to slash taxes on tips and overtime, and he wants to get rid of taxation on Social Security for seniors. So this is a huge bill that we are hoping will get passed, and he definitely wants to get that passed. Now, I have even more big stories that I want to share with you, including Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is calling for the deportation of President Trump's wife, First Lady Melania Trump. I'll tell you more about that and what's going on in New York. But first, a word from our sponsor. Have you seen the latest fluoride headlines and the water supply? The future of oral health care isn't fluoride, it's actually peptides. And the wellness company just launched their first ever peptide paste that regenerates gum tissue, strengthens enamel, and naturally whitens your teeth. It's called Smile, a doctor formulated breakthrough that works with your body's natural repair process. This advanced formula blends targeted peptides with blue spirulina, aloe vera, and powerful remineralizers to boost blood flow, stimulate collagen, and help rebuild lost gum tissue, all while gently whitening without sensitivity. No fluoride, no peroxide, no artificial dyes, just real clean ingredients that fight bad bacteria and support a healthier mouth from the inside out. Ready to upgrade your oral health? Experience the future of oral care with Smile and get 10% off plus free shipping. Head to twc.health/amazing and use code AMAZING. Get that discount and that free shipping today. Start right now with a healthier, beautiful smile. All right, over in New York, a new Democratic mayoral candidate is facing intense backlash. Republican Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee is now calling for him to be denaturalized and deported. This is Zohran Mamdani. So he's only been in the country less than 10 years. He's never held a real job. He just beat Andrew Cuomo out in the Democratic primaries. And how did he do this? He appealed to the over 30% of New Yorkers that are foreign born, meaning they're not from this country, but they do have the right to vote. He's promising all kinds of crazy incentives. He wants to empty the prisons. He said that crime is just a construct, that these are white people problems and that people of color don't need to be burdened by going to jail. Now, Ogles stated Zohran is Little Muhammad. Mamdani is an anti-Semitic socialist communist, an admitted socialist communist who wants to run New York City after not even being here for 10 years. They want to strip him of his naturalization as a citizen. And he's written a letter to Pam Bondi outlining why this guy is dangerous. Now, New York, come on. We went from 9/11 to an openly socialist person not from this country promising handouts. Really? This is crazy. Now, additionally, in this letter from Congressman Ogles, he writes, according to public records, on June 21st of 2025, Mr. Mamdani expressed open solidarity with individuals convicted of terrorism-related offenses prior to becoming a U.S. citizen. He also publicly praised the foundation's convicted leadership as my guy, raising serious concerns about whether Mr. Mamdani holds affiliations or sympathies for groups that are against the United States of America. Now, Douglas Murray went on Fox News and he said why he believes this guy is a danger for the United States. He sums it up better than I could, so I'm just going to put it on the screen and we will watch what he said about this together.
Oh, well, he's certainly going to destroy the Democratic Party. My own view is that the American public, including the voters in New York, don't really like socialists of any kind. We don't like national socialists, and we don't like democratic socialists. And although national socialists have a much worse reputation, democratic socialists should have an equally bad reputation. Mamdani has an appalling track record of extremism and bigotry of almost every kind. And his answer to the problems of New York is to chase out even more of the rich from New York than have already been chased out in recent years by previous Democrats. So no, he's absolutely box office poison for the party. Well, it's going to be a big problem for them because, as you say, they're literally running away from answering this question. Perhaps people like Kathy Hochul and others will eventually find their voice and point out that to elect somebody like Mamdani would be deadly for New York, deadly for the citizens of the city. And those younger voters, people in their 20s who seem to have come out from Andani, they've been promised a whole load of snake oil by him. But there's nothing that he's proposed that wouldn't make their lives worse. Just how many 20-somethings in New York feel good about the idea that the subway, when you ride it, that's already pretty dangerous, would be even more dangerous if you didn't have police in New York because Mandani had decided to defund them. Nobody in New York thinks that the subway should become more dangerous. I can assure them of that. But on that policy and on every other, he is just leading the Democratic Party to the furthest unelectable position they could come to. Who knows? Maybe he can squeeze through in some way. I hope very much not. But whether or not he does, if the party as a whole goes in this direction, they lose all ability to get the actual mainstream voters of left and center back on board.
So this is a mayoral candidate who has said, I'm not just figuratively talking about defunding the police. I want to remove the police altogether. I'm going to reinstitute DEI. People of color should absolutely be able to get jobs before white people. He wants to decriminalize sex workers. He wants New York tax money to pay for transgender reassignment surgeries. He wants LGBTQ to be brought back into school systems. And he wants to raise taxes so that the government can do more for the poor and less for the rich. Now, from what I'm reading, there's already been a big increase in people wanting to sell their house and get out of New York. But you might be asking, Stephen, how is this guy going to pay for this? Well, I'm glad that you asked. It says right here in Zoran for New York City, shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homeowners in richer and whiter neighborhoods. So this guy wants to do all of this socialist stuff. And how is he going to pay for it? Tax white people. That's how he's going to pay for it. If this was any other group, people would be up in arms. If they said, we're going to pay for everything by overtaxing black people, overtaxing Mexican people, overtaxing Chinese people, it would be an outrage. But because it's white people, they go, well, I guess they have a point. We should be able to get ahead by climbing on the backs of white people. I don't know. This guy may end up winning, in which case, good luck, New York. I really do wish you the best of luck. All right. Now, Jasmine Crockett, she is calling for First Lady Melania Trump to be deported out of the United States of America. She said, you're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Prize or the Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in science, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of these accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin'. So she is saying that she came in under an Einstein visa and that she should be removed for not being very smart or having received the Nobel Peace Prize or some major accolade. She's actually a pretty smart lady. She speaks 6 different languages. She just happens to be shy. She also criticized the Trump administration's visa policies, including revoking visas based on social media activity as lacking integrity. Alex Nowraste of the Cato Institute defended Melania, humorously saying, getting married to Donald Trump is a pretty big achievement. All right. Now, in Russia, Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced the mass production of the Oreshnik hypersonic ballistic missile, further heightening tension among ongoing conflicts with NATO, Ukraine, and the Middle East. First deployed against Ukraine in November of 2024, the missile is touted as unstoppable and capable of striking targets as far as the United States and Western Europe. Putin emphasized that its production is intended to strengthen Russia's military power, with plans to station these missiles in Belarus later this year. Now, the Oreshnik, a medium-ranged missile likely based on the RS-26 Rubez, was launched in response to Ukraine's use of American-supplied missiles. It did tremendous damage, and it didn't even have any payload in it, meaning just the weight and the sheer power of that completely decimated an area in Ukraine. Imagine if it actually had missiles and explosives inside of it. This has NATO actually very worried. It's a very powerful weapon, and they only have a few of them. And now Putin is saying our factories, our war machine factories, which are running 24 hours a day, have been instructed to mass produce these. They will be in Russia and also our ally Belarus, as he continues to feel threatened by the expansion and threats of NATO. Pretty crazy. All right, let me know what you guys think of these stories in the comments down below. Lots going on. Should Melania Trump be removed from America? Should the big, beautiful bill be passed? Is RFK Jr. about to expose the damage of ingredients in vaccines? I mean, there was just a report put out that people that get the flu shot are more likely to get sick than people that don't get it. So I believe that we've been lied to a lot, and RFK Jr. is about to expose that. And I think Big Pharma knows it, and they are shaking in their boots. All right, I love you guys. If you could, please give this video a like, hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 2 million amazing truth seekers. I love you guys. Stay amazing, and I will see you on the next video.